How's it going, guys, and welcome to another Curious review. Now, in this video, we're going to be reviewing a game called Meridian Squad 22. And that is a sci-fi RTS game from a company called Elder Games, a one-man company run by, now forgive me because my pronunciation is going to be awful, Edi Tarsoli. I have no idea if I pronounced that correctly, sorry guys. It's the sequel to a game called Meridian New World, and I'm afraid I can't comment on whether this game has improved over the game before it, because I have not played that one. Now, the first thing I want to get out of the way is that I have actually been given a review copy of this game. And, of course, I am going to do my absolute best to be impartial, despite having been given the review copy, but I want to make that absolutely clear to you, as I think it's a very important thing for any game reviewer to always disclose, in my opinion, when they've been given a review copy or anything that might sway their opinion in any way whatsoever. Okay, so that's out of the way. Let's get on with the review. I'm afraid this is a tough one, and it's a tough one because this game tries, and it tries really hard, and it's a game made by one guy, so I really appreciate the effort that went into that. Unfortunately, in my opinion, it just isn't quite ready for a full release. Now, to start with, the Steam Store page makes a point of saying it has polished, dynamic, and fluid unit control. While my experience has been that sometimes units don't properly respond to orders, sometimes they cancel move orders when their pathfinding fails, and there seems to be a lack of move and shoot, though it's possible I just missed that while I was playing the game. Generally, when commanding units, it kind of worked adequately, though nothing compared to games like Supreme Commander, which had excellent unit control options, but it often glitches, making commanding large groups of units especially a very frustrating experience. I have other gripes of units as well, and that is that while their designs are really quite nice, the game and its units do look very, very cool. There is an extreme shortage of units. There are about 3 tanks, a mech walker, a few infantry units, a fast attack vehicle thing, 2 aircraft, and a number of naval craft, which, I'm afraid, due to the almost total lack of strategically important water in the game, are essentially pointless. There's very few ways to use the Navy in this game, and I liked the Navy in games like Command & Conquer and Supreme Commander, so I actually went out of my way to try to use them, and I found I actually just couldn't find a way to make them useful. Also, there's only actually 1.5 factions in the campaign. Your opponents get all the same units you do, plus some fairly weak robot mechs, and that's it. So you basically feel the same as your opponent. So basically, while the design of the units is good, unit variety is a problem. The balancing of these units is also a bit perplexing. Tanks deal okay damage, but die incredibly easy, to the point where the very cheap walker vehicle actually outclasses them in mass attacks, with the one exception of the last tank that you unlock, which is the only tank that really feels like a tank to play. Generally, due to the odd balance of units, the combat tends to boil down into defending against waves of units until you have a large enough mass of them to just walk over and trounce your opponent. And there's not really any particular advantages to choosing one unit over another depending on the composition of your opponent's forces. There's no real rock, paper, scissoring in this game. There's no kind of, like in Command & Conquer, using grenaders against tanks kind of thing. That doesn't really exist. Everything does decent damage to everything, which makes everything feel the same. So this and unit control usually turns large battles into just a frustrating grind of attrition. Just numbers and not much else. There is also a series of squad missions outside of the main campaign, which are essentially challenges, and a conquest mode where you take territories that are procedurally generated until you tackle the opponent's HQ. However, while it has a campaign of decent length, it took me maybe 8 hours, 9 hours to beat it, and 2 other modes of play, different modes can't really stand strong enough if the core gameplay is as unfortunately glitchy and frustrating as it is. Now, I have been very critical of the gameplay, but this game does have some strong points. It has very, very good visuals, especially for a one-man game. It looks incredibly good. It also has very good sound, and that was the sole aspect of the game that I read the developer got outside help on, hiring a third party, I think, to tackle the sound design. The story is another area that almost works. There isn't a huge amount of narrative, but what's there tells a story of a harsh, technologically obsessed society that's willing to go to any lengths to further its aims. And partway through the story, you actually find out, it's made clear to you, that your squad are actually rebelling against the Earth's government, hence the name Squad 22, and as a result of an atrocity committed by your commander by accident in his past, I believe, you kind of turned traitor along with your kind of soldiers and decided it was better to fight against Earth. And, you know, this is a decent data set. You know, it gets you a little bit interested. However, without the characters being very interesting, and I'm afraid they're not, they never really establish themselves, so there's not really much to pull you into the story, because characters are always the anchor of the story, and while the story itself, on paper, sounds quite good, the characters needed to be strong to pull you in, and I'm afraid they're not. They feel very cardboard cutouty. So, with all that said, I'm afraid I simply cannot recommend this game, as even though it only costs €15, it kind of feels like a half-finished early access title. Now, while I don't recommend this game, except to absolute fanatics of the genre, or if it goes on sale maybe, I don't actually want the developer to stop, because this game almost works. It's so close, and I think with a little more work, it could be made into a competent little RTS, and I encourage him to do that. I really, really do, as he's obviously very passionate about game development, and I think he might have it in him to make something really cool if he keeps trying. So, Edie, or however I pronounce your name, keep on going, because while I don't think this game quite works, I think you're nearly there, and if you keep on working, you can make that game you're trying to make. So, keep on going. So yeah, that has been my review of this game. I hope you've enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time. See you later, guys.